Hello, JUSTJEM here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. Perhaps a little bit late to the party, or rather, well no, I arrived at the party quite early because I've been using this palette for quite some time, but in terms of getting my video up, I'm late to the party. But that's because I've decided to approach this a little bit differently. I have been using the Danessa Myricks Lightwork VII palette since I got it pretty much exclusively. I might have dipped into another palette here or there, and yes, I do still have the polystyrene protective thingy in there. I have it in the number 6 as well. Will I get rid of it? Possibly, I don't know, but for the time being it stays. So this is the palette for anyone who, for whatever reason, hasn't seen it yet. This is Lightwork VI. No, it's not. It's Lightwork VII even. It's Lightwork VII. And I'm going to tell you what I think, because I've been using it since the Monday after it launched. It launched on the Friday and I had it by the Monday morning, first thing Monday morning. I'll start with the basics. So, I mean, you'll have seen this all before, I'm sure, but for anyone who it's their first time on YouTube and it's their first time searching this particular palette, you'll know that it comes packed in, or maybe you don't know, maybe should I show you? First off, I have to say, if you have any concern about this arriving damaged to you, I would say that is highly unlikely, because the palette comes in this rather sizable box, and then it's in bubble wrap, within more bubble wrap, and then it's in another box, which looks like this. This is actually the Lightwork VI one, but it's the same thing. It looks like this, and then it's in one of these thin polystyrene envelopes. It's pretty secure. Even if they are playing football or rugby or any other extreme sport, not that football or rugby are extreme sports, but you get what I'm trying to say here, I still think that this is going to reach you in tip-top condition. And not only that, in the box that I ordered it had extra paper to act as additional packaging. So they're really going to have to maybe get a steamroller out for this to arrive damaged to you. And if it does arrive damaged, that's very unfortunate, because it's very well packed. The next thing I'll touch on is the price, and I thought I would do some comparisons just to give you a better idea of how this rates when it perhaps comes to value. I got mine off Beautylish, and on Beautylish it's £115, and that's probably one of, if not the best place, I think, if you're based in the UK, to get this palette. It's £139.50 on places like Cult Beauty. I think it's dropped now on Beauty Bay, and it's also on Guru Makeup Emporium. There are definitely vouchers knocking around on each of those places, but what I will say is any of those 20% like Cult Beauty codes, they won't work because this product is too new. If you want to avail of a 20% discount on one of those websites, you're going to have to wait until it's not a brand new shiny launch anymore. And then in the US, it's going to retail for $128. And then I thought I would compare it to 3 different brands. So Pat McGrath, which I think for obvious reasons, Pat McGrath does a mothership. They drop more or less every year. So I think it's pretty comparable to Lightwork, which seems to be following that similar pattern. I'm also going to compare it to Byredo. And Byredo, also because they tend to do a limited edition yearly drop. And then I thought I'd throw in Adept Cosmetics, only because in my mind it was almost the most similar indie brand, and that's because it has those intense shimmers in it, and it's a very shimmer heavy palette predominantly with a few mattes. So if it's a £15 palette, they tend to follow the pattern of 5 shimmers and 10 mattes. Let's kick off with Lightwork VII. So there's 18 pans in here, and each pan is 1.2 grams, giving you a total of 21.6 grams. And if we're going with the $128 price point, that makes it $5.93 per gram of product. Next up, I'm going to do a value comparison with a Mothership palette. So this one's number 5. This is just the first one that I plucked off my shelf. Now this is interesting because I hadn't realised this until I started digging into it, but the Motherships have different weights depending on which Mothership that you've got. Motherships 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 and 7 have 13.2 grams of product. Motherships 4, 8, 10, 11 and 12 have 19.5 grams of product, and then Mothership 9 has 12.9 grams of product. I don't know why they vary so much. I've decided to go with the 19.5 gram value because that seems to be what the latest Motherships weigh. Like, that seems to be the gram amount that you get now. But based on 19.5 grams of product, a Pat McGrath palette works out at $6.56 per gram. Now Byredo took me by surprise, actually. I've only got Mineralscapes at the moment, but now that I've discovered what I'm about to tell you, I'm very, very tempted now to go and pick up Bibliophilia. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I posted a story about this. I got a voucher recently for Selfridges, which would mean that Mineralscapes, this is Mineralscapes, Bibliophilia would only be £42, so I'm very tempted now. But this is Mineralscapes, just so you can see how pretty she is. Very pretty palette, very pretty. And this is 30 grams of product, 30 grams. So there's 18 shades in here, same as Lightwork VII, which is another reason why I wanted to do the comparison. 30 grams of product, and it works out at $3.83 per gram. So I mean that's not bad value, not bad value at all, especially when you're comparing it to Pat McGrath and Danessa Myricks. And then as an indie brand comparison, as I say, based on sort of composition and the kind of the packaging and like the magnetic aspect, I've thrown in Adept Cosmetics, and we're going to look at Minka here because this is the newest Adept Cosmetics palettes I happen to have, and probably the most comparable. I use that term loosely. Inside an Adept Cosmetics palette, you get 18 grams of product, and based on the $79 price point of the Minka palette, that works out at $4.38. If you're looking at Emo or Rimmel, that one, then it's $4 because it's a little bit less. It's $72 per palette. I don't know why there's a price difference, possibly to do with ever so slightly different formulations and shimmers used and whatnot. But just to give you an idea of where Danessa sits value-wise, and I do appreciate I've done dollars and grams and I've done a mishmash. It's probably, you'd want pounds and grams and ounces and dollars, and I'm only doing it in dollars because the prices in dollars are consistent. When you try to convert it to pounds, it's gonna vary where you get it, and it's gonna depend on postage and all of that stuff. Dollars is just easier. It's just easier. And most of you are watching from the US anyway. That's the value aspect. What I did as well, so I've been using it almost exclusively since I got it, and I tried to do a look mainly based on each section. So I've got one based on this section. I think I drifted into the middle section a little bit. Then I've got one that's solely the purpley section and one that's solely the bluey section, and then I think I've got a wild card look. First look using the Danessa Myricks Lightwork VII palette, and this is a quick check-in before I wash my face and go to bed. I've had this on, I finished my makeup probably about 7:45 this morning because I was out the door by 8. And it's, I think it's 9:20 now. Okay, so that's quite an intense sparkle there. I think that's a good angle. So you can see maybe some settling where the fold is of my lid, but I don't know if I'd call that creasing. So like no big gaps where oils have peeked through or anything like that. And then it's probably more apparent on this lid because I have like a double fold on this lid. So the settling is more apparent, I would say. But not bad for 12 plus hours at all. Really like this look, just a bit soft, a bit delicate. More looks to come, definitely. Jean, also known as Critical Beauty 411, did a comparison of the purples in Lightwork VII today, which is a happy coincidence because I focused on the purple section of the palette today, and I've used the smooth shade on my eyes here, and I think you can see it almost appears gold. Sort of on this eye it looks a bit greeny gold, and on this eye it's got that purple hue to it. And then I've applied both on my cheeks. So that's the smoother one there, and that's the chunkier one. And to me it's as if they have the same shift, but the shift doesn't appear at the same angle. So at this angle here you can see that purple has got the full-on green going on there, but this one, the sparse one, is purple. But then if I tilt a bit more, it's kind of harder to see because this has been put on more sparsely, but now they're more similar. It's the end of the day. I'm about to wash my face. I'm doing my usual check-in. I've had this on since 8 o'clock this morning. It's now 10 PM at night, and no creasing. There we go. I've been using the Danessa Myricks Colour Fix in Nude 9 as a base, and I also picked up Nude 8 to try, and I think Nude 8 edges it for me because it's not as warm. It's a bit more neutral to cool, which I think suits me better, so that's what I've used as a base today. Before I start on the look, I'm going to show you some swatches. I'm going to show you swatches of Lightwork VII, swatches of Lightwork VI, and then I'll just put like a static image or possibly some moving footage. Let's see what editing gem feels like. Just so you can see how Lightwork VI and Lightwork VII compare. I haven't done a comparison to Lightwork V in this, but if you want to see lots of swatches, I did do a live swatch party. My recommendation is check that out and just put it on 2x speed because it is live and I am chatty and I'm getting distracted and things are going on. But if you do just want to see more swatches and also see it in comparison to a few shades from Lightwork V, then the swatch party live that I did is quite useful for that. So maybe just shove it on mute, shove it on 2x, and you can see it in that way. And I probably will do another video just properly comparing 5, 6 and 7. I don't know if people would need that at this stage because by the time I get around to that it might be too late in the day, but if it's not too late in the day and people are still interested, then I will do an in-depth comparison of 5, 6 and 7 here. Thinking about what I want to do today, maybe I just won't think too much. I'll start with a matte. Rooted, which I think is the shade that's based on Nude Fix number 9 actually. And this is Rooted right here, so let's try some Rooted. So while I apply this matte, I will say initially I was maybe disappointed isn't the right word as such, but when I heard that and saw that there were going to be some mattes in this shade, I did think to myself, no, why is that then? Because you don't really associate a Lightwork palette with matte shades. Shall I zoom you in a little bit? Yeah. You don't associate Lightwork with matte shades. You associate it with those stunning, shifty, different textured shimmer shades that you know, if you when you think Lightwork 5 and 6, it was all full of special shades. So I did think to myself, are we being shafted here a little bit with the inclusion of matte shades, considering that the price point does not reflect that some of the shades are matte, if you consider that special shades tend to be the more expensive ones. I will say though that the mattes that are in here are well chosen. I think they work very, very well with the rest of the overall colour story, and they perform beautifully. They blend really, really nicely. So I'm going to bring this right down because I want to be able to demonstrate to you how awesome the black in this palette is for adding depth without overpowering a look. I'm going into, this is one of the purples here, let me see if I can fit. Spellbound and Open Heart. I'm just going to show you this. So they're both purples here, Spellbound, Open Heart. I don't think you need both of these shades in here. I'd keep this one and I would ditch this one because that one's much smoother and this one has got, it's grittier, it's not as smooth, it's more textured, it doesn't lay down as nicely. It does lay down eventually, but you've got to work at it. I'd switch this out for maybe the same formula as that, but a richer purple. So that's Spellbound. And now I'll go into, this must be Dreamer. That's Dreamer. It's quite, let's see what that looks like. I don't think I've paired these two together yet, so this could be very interesting. Ooh. It's not super smooth. Bit chunky. Not as chunky as Open Heart though, definitely not. Oh, that's nice actually. They pair nicely. And as I normally do, I'm just going to get a flat brush here and give that a tidy. Okay. And as I mentioned, I just want to show you what it looks like when you gently use the black in here, which is called, that's called Grounded. Did I call the brown Grounded accidentally before? Because that brown is called Rooted. This is Grounded. So I just dipped ever so slightly here, and you can use it to just, I don't want to cover my face here, but I do want to be able to see what I'm doing. Might have even put a little bit too much on there. And you see that? It just to add that little bit of depth without overpowering it. And then on my other eye, what do I want to do on my other eye? I might use Toasted, which is that slightly lighter brown. Yep, so that's Toasted here. So this isn't really a brown. You can see it's in the purple section, so it's a mauvey toned colour. You might be able to see it better when I put it on my lid. You see, it's quite light, but once I sort of buff it out, there you go. So you can see in comparison, well I hope you can, because my lighting all of a sudden is appalling, but I hope you can see that where that was brown. This is like a lighter tone and it's got a mauviness to it. I might use Mother Earth first. So Mother Earth is this shade right here. This is a shade that I really liked actually. There was just something about it that I just found really pretty. Okay. And then on the inner part of my lid, I shall use the shade Wish. So that's Wish right here. Wish is pretty, super smooth, intense, shimmery shade. Do I get the black involved again, just to kind of show you? And I'll go in a bit softer as well. And then just this is the brush that I used to lay down the mauve shade originally, Toasted. Just to show you that you can just use it to deepen things up without it taking over. Like that. Got some concealer on, so let's do the underneath. And I'm picking up a Refer number 3. I'm going back to this eye and I'm going to have to get that blue involved. I just have to. And that blue is called Mother's Love. And I'm going to use that as like an under eye shade. I don't know what, I think I was trying to be fancy there. I don't know what word I was looking for. There was a time when anytime I did an under eye shade, it was a shimmer. And then now I find myself using mattes more, but I need to remember to put a shimmer under there every now and again. And then wipe off the pigment, and I think I will go into that initial blue that's on the inside there, Dreamer. It is a bit of a chunkier shade. I don't know if I'm going to need to wet my brush for this. Yeah, I'm going to wet it. Okay, and for the inner corner, let's use Northern Lights. And Northern Lights is this shade right here. I've thrown the kitchen sink at that. I've used quite a lot. Let's finish the other eye. I don't think I want to do shimmer on this eye. I think I'm going to mix Toasted and Grounded, but with more Toasted. So I'm picking up a pencil. Apparently I'm Kiwi now. Pencil. I'm going to dip in between these two now. So this and this under my eye. There we go. Because I think Toasted on its own would be too light, but adding a little bit of Grounded in there deepens things up a little bit. And then for an inner corner, I don't know if I want to go with Golden Child or Warmth. So it's between these two here. It's Golden Child and that's Warmth. I'm going to go with Warmth. So, okay, I'm going to do liner and mascara and I'll be back. Both eyes complete. Both, would I say wild card? That's mainly the middle and the blue side, and that's mainly the other side. Yeah. So I've tried to spread it out. Considering all the looks that I've done, I've definitely used every single shade, definitely. And that's more of an everyday subtle look that you could do. And then this just gives you an idea of a more colourful look that you can get with the palette as well. Do you have a favourite? Colourful or muted? Let me know. I do feel like I'm a bit all over the place in this video, and that's probably because I'm not feeling 100%. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I don't know what's going on. I've been feeling like this for a few days now, just not quite right, but not dreadful either. So I do apologise if I am a bit scatterbrained, and I might have a lot of fun trying to edit this into something coherent and cohesive and easy to follow. That's going to be an interesting job for editing Jem. Good luck to her. But to give you my overall thoughts, and at the risk of repeating myself as well, I do really like this. I wanted to use it more exclusively so I could do an in-depth review, but it wasn't a chore to do. I didn't reach for this and think to myself, oh God, I've got to look at this and think of another look to do. I wanted to. Each time I did a new look, I was excited to do it, and I was curious to see what you could do if you just stayed within each of the sixes, and if you kind of mixed and matched and went around all the different sixes. So it was always fun to pick this up every single time, and each time I did a look, it made me think, oh, now that I've put that shade in there, I wonder how it would look if I put this shade in there instead. So the creative juices are definitely flowing when I look at this palette. I think I've seen a few people say that they wish there was like an emeraldy green in here, but the reason there isn't, these are still 6 on my wrist here, on my arm, but you've got like this beautiful green here, which I am going to do some mixing and matching like later on down the line. And I can see why there could be a place for like a foresty green in here. A green that's on the same level as this blue over here. I can see it. However, this does work. And I've said it a few times now. I think originally I was thrown by the fact that there are mattes in here, but the mattes are very nice mattes. As mattes go, they are beautiful. They blend really, really well. And I love that this black is pigmented, but if you do go in lightly, you can use it just to add a hint of depth. It's not going to overpower your look as long as you go gently with it, because it is still a pigmented black. Me, I paid 115 because I got it from Beautylish, and I think it's worth that. I really do, especially when you do compare it to a Pat McGrath palette, because those special shades are, there's only 4 of them, and yes, you have some other shimmers, but they're more of your standard shimmers. They're not like your special intense shades. All of the shimmers in here are special intense shades, whereas in the mothership you're only getting 4, or at least you were getting 4. These days I don't know if you get any of those special shades anymore. I don't think there were any in the latest one. Are we up to 12? I don't know. I think that Danessa might have sort of dethroned Pat there when it comes to that yearly drop. This is more bang for your buck, and to me, more special. I think so. And I think a few people have, and I mean, I've said it myself about the whole adding mattes and the fact that it's still $128, but you still get more value with this than you would with a Pat McGrath palette. Not just because of the price per gram, but because of the fact you're getting 18 shades in this as opposed to 10, and you're just getting more special goodness. My main critique is definitely this purple here. This is the dud for me. This is the main shade for me that I wish was different. Everything else is beautiful, but this particular shade here, I just don't think it's necessary when you've got this one, which I think is just superior in performance. But these two, they're just too similar. If anyone is wondering if the bright blue in here is like the blue that's in 6, it's not. They're completely different formulas, completely different. The blue that probably resembles this is a satiny shade. It almost appears matte, so you can just about see it on my wrist here. But they're not comparable. They're not comparable at all. This, to me, is the Lightwork for anyone who saw Lightwork VI and thought it was beautiful but was intimidated by it. This is going to be something where you can get your neutral looks, but if you want to have a bit of fun and you want to pop in a bit of colour, then you can do that. You can. You've got the blue here, even this blue up top here, the purples, and then you can mix some of these more neutrally shimmers with those shades again to get something a bit more colourful. So this is something for someone who possibly is a bit more neutral but wants to explore colour a bit more. You know, this is definitely not something that's going to push you out of your comfort zone, but it might introduce you to colour. Part of me wonders if these had switched around like 6 and 7, I don't know that I'd have bought either, because this is more me now, whereas 6 was more me then. But I still love 6 and I still reach for 6, but I don't know if I'd have got 6 now. I don't know. Probably, to be fair, probably. But I'm glad to have both. Absolutely. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is mixing and matching across 6 and 7 and seeing what you can do, because I think together they're going to be pretty impressive. I think so, definitely. I hope that's been helpful, and as I say, I apologise that it's a bit all over the place, but that's kind of how I'm feeling at the moment, I'm not going to lie. I think it's a great palette. I do think it's worth having, and especially because when they say limited edition, they mean limited edition. I have seen so many people, now that this has come out, regretting the fact that they didn't get 6 at the time when it was an option, and I'm almost kicking myself for not buying a backup when it went down to 60% off at Sephora. They're obviously trying to sort of get rid of what they had left. And I was so tempted to buy a backup, but then I thought to myself, you're never going to pan it anyway. You don't need a backup. But for anyone who didn't get 6, for those people, I do hope they bring it back. But if they don't, and you're thinking about this, I think it's probably worth it. It really is. And at the end of the day, if you get it and you don't like it, I guarantee someone will bite your hand off for it when it's no longer available. And I'm not one to encourage buying based on FOMO, but I just know how people felt when 6 was no longer available. Don't sleep on this. You know, if you're looking at this, the Sephora sale, I think it's still running at the moment. If you're in the US, Black Friday is coming. Hopefully it will be included as a sale item during Black Friday too. I genuinely think this is something worth having. I really do. And I'm going to leave it there because I have stuff to do, like wash my brushes, which I still haven't done, and I couldn't tell you how long it's been. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I also hope to see you again in a video in a not too distant future. Take care. Bye.